My parents gave their entire inheritance to my brother, but when he kicked them out, they came begging to me. They never expected my response. My parents gave everything to my brother, the house, the savings, even family heirlooms, because he was the successful one. I didn't fight it, I stayed quiet. But less than a year later, he kicked them out with nowhere to go. And when they showed up on my doorstep, asking for help, let's just say, they weren't ready for the answer I gave them. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Growing up, it was always clear who the favorite was. My older brother Daniel could do no wrong. Straight A's, star athlete, smooth talker, the golden child. My parents worshipped the ground he walked on. Me? I was the quiet one. The one who liked books more than sports. The one who didn't fight back when they said, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" I spent years watching them pour every ounce of praise, money, and time into him. When he got into college, they took out loans to help him. When I got in, I took a job at the campus bookstore to afford my books. It wasn't just favoritism, it was a full-blown, decades-long investment in Daniel with the assumption that one day he'd return the favor and take care of the family. So, when my parents retired, they didn't even pretend to split things evenly. They handed Daniel the house, transferred their savings account into one with his name, gave him the heirloom jewelry from grandma, and me? I got a nice card and a "we know you'll understand." And I did. At least, I thought I did. They said Daniel would be looking after them, that it was just more efficient this way, that I didn't need much anyway. I bit my tongue and smiled, told them I was happy for them, because deep down, I knew something they didn't. Daniel only takes care of Daniel. I didn't know how long it would take, or what it would look like, but I knew this whole setup would collapse eventually, and when it did, I'd be the one they came to. It didn't take long before the shiny picture started to blur. At first, it was little things. Dad would mention on the phone that Daniel was too busy to help fix the faucet. Mom would joke about how she had to Uber to her doctor's appointment because someone forgot. But the tone wasn't playful. It was tight, strained. I didn't say much, just listened. I wasn't going to be the "I told you so" sibling, not yet. Then came the bigger cracks. Daniel had convinced them to sign over the deed to the house completely, saying it would streamline their finances. What they didn't realize was that he wasn't planning on sharing the home. They were just living there until he decided otherwise. And apparently, he decided faster than anyone expected. One night, Mom called me, whispering like she was hiding in a closet. "Your brother brought a realtor over today," she said. "They walked through the whole house while we were still having breakfast." I sat up straight. "Wait, what?" She sounded panicked. "He said he was just exploring his options, but I saw the paperwork on the kitchen counter. He's selling." I asked her if she'd confronted him. She hesitated. "He said it's his house now, legally." She wasn't wrong. On paper, he owned it. But morally, he was throwing out the same parents who gave him everything, literally. They still didn't want to believe it, though. They thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Daniel was stressed. Maybe he'd change his mind. Spoiler, he didn't. Because just a week later, I got the knock at my door. And when I opened it, my parents were standing there, 2 suitcases, no car, and looks on their faces like they couldn't quite believe this was real. I'll never forget the look in my parents' eyes when I opened the door. Exhaustion, embarrassment, and something else. Shock. Not just at the fact that Daniel had kicked them out, but at the fact that they had to come to me. The child they'd overlooked for decades. The one they assumed would always just be fine. I stood there for a moment, not saying anything, just looking at them, 2 suitcases, no car in the driveway. My dad was clutching a plastic grocery bag with what I assume were important documents. My mom looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Can we come in?" my dad finally asked, voice hoarse. I stepped aside. They shuffled in like they were walking into a stranger's house. Once they were seated, they gave me the whole story. Daniel had sold the house. Fast. He hadn't even warned them before closing. He told them a moving truck would be by that morning and that they shouldn't make this harder than it has to be. He even offered to cover their first month in a cheap apartment, like he was doing them a favor. But when they realized they couldn't get approved for a lease that quickly, and the nursing home option they'd laughed off last year now looked real, they panicked, so they came to me. "We just need a place to stay for a few weeks," my mom said, "until we figure things out." I leaned back in my chair. "Funny," I said. That's exactly what I told you when you handed everything to Daniel. That one day, you might need me. My dad looked down at his hands. My mom started to speak, but I cut her off. I know you're in a bad spot, I said, and I won't leave you on the street, but let's be very clear. This isn't about guilt, it's about boundaries. They weren't ready for what came next. Because forgiveness, that's earned. And I wasn't about to let history repeat itself. I let them stay. But this wasn't some welcome home mom and dad situation. This was survival, with structure. They moved into the guest room. I gave them a printed list of house rules like I was running a damn Airbnb. No criticizing how I live. No making passive-aggressive comments about my job, my friends, or my lifestyle. You clean up after yourselves, and you contribute. They were stunned. My mom blinked at the list like it was written in another language. This isn't how family helps each other, she mumbled. Oh, I said, raising an eyebrow. You mean like how you helped me when Daniel got the house, the savings, and your retirement plan? Or how you helped me by saying I didn't need much anyway? She went quiet. For the first time in my life, they were walking on eggshells. And Daniel? Radio silence. Of course. After everything, he hadn't even called to check if they were okay. He'd moved on, new condo, new car, a girlfriend half his age based on what I saw on Instagram. I didn't bring him up much, but one morning over coffee, my dad broke the silence. I thought he'd come back, he said. I thought maybe once the dust settled. He won't, I said. You were never part of his long-term plan. You were just an asset. He didn't argue. Over the next few weeks, they started to see it. Not just what Daniel had done, but who he'd always been, and how blind loyalty and favoritism had led them here. My mom apologized one night after dinner, actually apologized. We failed you, she said. We chose a fantasy over fairness. I didn't say anything right away. I just nodded, because words were fine, but they weren't everything. They had a lot more to make up for. And when Daniel finally did resurface, it wasn't to check in, it was to ask for money. Daniel texted me out of nowhere, like nothing had happened. Hey, can we talk? I'm dealing with some stuff. Thought maybe you could help. No, how are you? No mention of mom and dad. Just straight to business, like always. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying, What kind of stuff? 5 minutes later, he called. Apparently the condo he bought was bleeding him dry. Property taxes, HOA fees, the works. His flashy new girlfriend, gone, and the tech startup he'd been bragging about for the past year, laid him off when funding dried up. And just like that, Daniel the Golden Boy was no longer shining. So yeah, he said, voice tight, I might need a short-term loan, just to hold me over until things stabilize. I let the silence hang for a second. You kicked our parents out of the house they gave you, I said. Didn't even bother to make sure they had somewhere to go. Now you want a loan? He sighed like I was being dramatic. That wasn't my fault. They were ungrateful. They didn't respect boundaries. Boundaries, the audacity. I took them in, I said coldly. They're living with me now. You'd know that if you cared enough to call. He didn't say anything. I continued. You got everything, Daniel. The money, the house, their trust. And the second things got inconvenient, you dumped them like baggage. So no, you don't get a loan. You get to sit in the mess you made. Wow, he snapped. So this is you taking the high road? No, I said. This is me doing exactly what you would have done. Only difference? I'm being honest about it. I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I felt the balance shift completely. My parents heard the end of the call from the kitchen. They didn't say a word, but my dad walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder. Proud of you, he said softly. That meant more than I expected, because maybe for the first time ever, they weren't just looking at me. They were finally seeing me. A week passed. I figured Daniel would lick his wounds and go quiet like he always did when the spotlight wasn't flattering anymore. But nope, he showed up at my house, unannounced. I opened the door to see him standing there, fake smile plastered on his face like it hadn't cracked wide open days ago. Hey, he said casually, like he hadn't just tried to milk money out of me. I thought we could talk, in person. Behind me, I could hear our parents shifting in the kitchen. My mom froze when she saw him. My dad stood up but didn't move. I don't think there's much left to say, I told him. Daniel chuckled like I was being silly. Come on, we're family. This is all just a misunderstanding. Oh, now he wants to play the family card? I stepped outside and pulled the door halfway shut behind me. Cut the act. You didn't misunderstand anything. You took what wasn't yours and threw away the people who gave it to you. And now that you're broke, you suddenly remember we exist? He rolled his eyes. Okay, yes, I made some bad calls. But I was under pressure. You don't know what it's like to have everyone expect you to be perfect all the time." I stared at him. "No, I know exactly what that's like. You just never looked long enough to see it." He started to say something else, but I held up my hand. "Don't bother. You're not getting money. You're not getting sympathy. And if you can't respect the fact that mom and dad are here now, you don't get access to them either." For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Anger? Shame? Maybe both. And then he smirked. "Wow, so this is your moment, huh? You finally get to feel like the better child. Congrats." I didn't flinch. "Number, this isn't about being better. It's about being decent." He turned and walked away without another word. I closed the door, locked it, and let out a slow breath. Inside, my parents were still standing there. My mom looked shaken, my dad looked exhausted. But me? I felt calm, not smug, not satisfied, just settled. Because the golden child had finally lost his shine, and the kid they always thought would be just fine had become the one holding everything together. After Daniel left, something changed in the house. It wasn't dramatic, no big speeches or breakdowns, just a shift. Like the air was clearer, like everyone had finally stopped pretending. My parents started helping out more. My dad offered to mow the lawn before I even asked. My mom cooked dinner for the first time since they had moved in, and not out of obligation, but because she wanted to. And the conversations? Different. Less small talk, more reflection, more accountability. One night over tea, my mom sat across from me and said, "You didn't just take us in, you showed us who we raised and who we overlooked." I didn't know what to say to that, but I nodded. They'd started to realize that Daniel didn't fail them alone. They helped build that illusion, fed it, protected it, and in doing so, they pushed me into the background. But now, the background had become the foundation, and they knew it. They didn't ask for anything extravagant. They didn't expect to be babied. They just tried to show up, for the first time in years. We weren't perfect, we never would be. But something real was growing in the space left behind by all the broken expectations. As for Daniel, I haven't heard from him since that day on my porch. He's still out there somewhere, probably looking for the next person to carry the weight of his choices. But he won't find that here, not anymore. Because this family, it's under new management. A few months later, something unexpected happened. My dad handed me a folder one morning over breakfast. No explanation, just a quiet, "We want you to have this." Inside, all the paperwork they'd updated, their wills, power of attorney, bank account information, a handwritten letter too. They'd redone everything, split assets fairly, with a clear trail of what belonged to whom. No ambiguity, no drama, no assumptions. But what caught me off guard the most? They had added a line in the letter that said, "You were never supposed to be the backup plan. You've always been the real one holding everything together. We see that now. We're sorry it took so long." I didn't cry, I just sat there, holding the letter, letting the weight of those words settle into the cracks they had unknowingly made years ago. This wasn't about revenge anymore, or proving who was better. This was about healing, rebuilding something from the ashes of a really broken family dynamic. Daniel may never come around, and honestly, I'm okay with that, because I'm not here to chase the past. I'm here to build a future, one where respect is mutual, love is balanced, and trust isn't a gamble. The inheritance didn't matter, but being seen, being valued, that changed everything. This story isn't about money, it's not about revenge, it's about recognition. Sometimes the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, are the ones who carry the most weight. We're expected to be fine, to be selfless, to pick up the pieces without ever getting credit for how many times we've held things together behind the scenes. And when people finally see that, it hits different. If you've ever been the forgotten sibling, the backup plan, or the one who was expected to understand while someone else got the spotlight, just know this: you are not invisible. You are not replaceable, and you don't owe anyone silence just to keep the peace. Your boundaries matter, your story matters, and the way you show up, quietly, consistently, without conditions, is more powerful than any inheritance ever could be. So, let me ask you, have you ever been the one expected to stay strong while someone else got all the praise? How did you handle it? Did they ever realize your worth? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you took your power back. And if this one hit close to home, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that being the underdog doesn't mean being underappreciated forever. Thanks for watching, and remember, being chosen by others means nothing. Being seen for who you truly are, that's everything. See you in the next one.